Now first let's understand what Pakistan Occupied Kashmir is. Now, the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir acceded to India on the 26th of October 1947. The ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh, did this because his kingdom was being invaded by tribals led by the Pakistan Army. The Indian Army moved in and fought the raiders, and this led to the first India-Pakistan war. But on the 1st of January 1949, India declared a ceasefire. Why it agreed to a ceasefire when the Indian Army was on the offensive is still a matter of debate nearly 8 decades later. So the situation on the ground today is that Pakistan occupies 72,000 kilometers of Jammu and Kashmir, what India calls Pakistan Occupied Kashmir or PoK. Now, PoK has two parts. Gilgit-Baltistan, which Pakistan carved out as a separate province in 2009. This area is roughly the size of Assam. The southern part of PoK is roughly the size of Tripura. This southern territory is where protests have broken out over the past few days. Will this be the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War movement where a popular people's movement was successful in uprooting the authoritarian Pakistani army from its soil? And should PoK come back to India, what will be the cost to India? Joining me to discuss this are prominent human rights activist Jamil Maqsood, Dr. Priyanka Singh of the MP IDSA, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul here in the studio with me. Jamil, I want to start by asking you, why are people in PoK protesting? What's the complaint that they have, and why are these slogans being raised, pro-India slogans?
Thank you very much for inviting us to highlight and share the current situation which is evolving in Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir region. Since 1 year, this is not a very new phenomena. Basically, this is the continuation of social and political upheavals of the past. Like the first ever rebellion took place against Pakistan in 1950, and that continued until 1955. And more than 200 Pakistani soldiers, which were the members of Pakistan Constabulary, which was at that time it was PC. Now it is Punjab Constabulary, but at that time it was called Pakistan Constabulary. They were arrested by the local people, and General Usmani, who surrendered in Bangladesh, was one of them. So in 60s, in 70s, in 80s, even in 90s, there was a massive upheaval against Pakistani policies in the region, and especially against jihadism, proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir under Indian administration. But because of non-availability of the print and electronic media, the voices of the people of our region were not coming out. And Pakistan, as usual, was and have been blacking out all these demonstrations, protests, and hue and cry of the local people. But now, because of the social media, you are able to find out videos, visuals, pictures, and also the voices of the people. If there would not have been the social media or the information technology gadgets, even in 2024, it would have been impossible for outer world to see what's happening in PoK. The current situation, as I said, it is the continuation of the past movements. Now, it is called the last struggle, now or never, because slowly and gradually, Pakistan has levied illegal taxes on this very small region. The total population of this region, as you said, is less than Rawalpindi division. And there is the cabinet of 53 persons, and 12 are directly elected from Pakistan, and most of them are Pakistani nationals. And their case is running before the High Court in Muzaffarabad that they are not the state subject and they are Pakistani nationals, so therefore their membership in the Legislative Assembly must be revoked, and all the perks and privileges which they have received over the years must be returned and recovered. So this is the one thing. The other thing is it's become because of the taxes which are levied on hydroelectricity. Then people are asking that an electricity that is produced by the voter, so why you have levied fuel adjustment charges and GST plus GST and one tax and plus another tax. So the cost of electricity per unit, that is 2.59 paisa sold to Pakistan, and that we are repurchasing very same electricity per unit 80 rupees. So that was totally injustice. And the other thing was the subsidy on flour and other food essentials was revoked. So it was first the people in Gilgit-Baltistan who staged massive protest for the revival of those lawful subsidies. It is not illegal or something that the people are extra constitutionally demanding. They think that it is their lawful right being administered by Pakistan, because both the peripheries, Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK, are not the constitutional or the legal part of Pakistan under Article 1, under Article 257, and under Article 161, 153, and IRSA and the Council of Common Interest. Because when someone calls that Gilgit-Baltistan is declared as a province of Pakistan, that is factually incorrect. Because Pakistan ostensibly claimed and propagated. But since the people of Gilgit-Baltistan have no legal representation at the National Assembly of Pakistan, at the Senate of Pakistan, at IRSA, at WAPDA, at Council of Common Interest, and also NFC, National Finance Commission Award. So how come you have declared...
Very important points there, Mr. Maqsood. The fact that you've mentioned that the people of PoK and especially Gilgit-Baltistan do not have representation in Pakistan's assembly. Aditya, very important point there, the fact that it's like no taxation without representation, and Gilgit-Baltistan and indeed PoK, what we call Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, is a virtual colony of Pakistan. They have no rights. It's more or less directly administered by by Islamabad and in this case Rawalpindi as well. How does this make the case for India to reintegrate PoK? How difficult is it going to be for us to do that?
You know, firstly, of course, the Indian Parliament has pledged that Pakistan Occupied Kashmir is an integral part of India. If not today, if not tomorrow, perhaps there will be a day that PoK will be a part of India. And Dr. S. Jaishankar has been repeatedly asked, the Indian Foreign Minister, that, you know, what about PoK? And he had something interesting to say. He said that, you know, nobody actually thought of Article 370 being abrogated from J&K. We made it happen. And perhaps that is the reason that people are not asking us about situation in Kashmir. Because there are peaceful elections happening today. And on the other hand, you know, this is an ironic situation.
Absolutely. On the day that you have elections in Kashmir.
On a day you have elections in Kashmir, more than 25 to 50% voting has been polled already. In Shopian, there is more than 30% voting, which is extraordinary. This is very close to Pulwama, where the Pulwama terror attack took place. So, just look at the comparison. There are massive violent protests happening in Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. There are elections democratically happening in the Kashmir Valley. On the other hand, the kind of stone pelting and violence that we saw in Lal Chowk, in Nauhata, in Shopian, Pulwama, Kulgam is not visible for the last 5 years.
It's in fact visible on the other side,
it's
across the border.
It's visible in Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, in Kotli, in Rawalakot, in Muzaffarabad, in Mirpur. In fact, there's a long march that the Jammu and Kashmir Awami Action Committee has organized towards Muzaffarabad. It will reach there perhaps later tonight or tomorrow. And that protest is being crushed. And look at the kind of anger that people have. One, a lot of locals, including children and women, are injured by the Pakistani security forces. Now the Kashmiris, the common Mirpuris, people from Kotli, are catching Pakistani police and almost lynching them. That means that their political rights are being crushed. Their fundamental rights have been crushed.
And they are up in revolt. And I want to bring in Dr. Priyanka Singh on this point. Dr. Singh, you've been studying PoK very closely. You're a scholar at the MP IDSA. You know, as Aditya mentioned, that you couldn't think of a time when Article 370 would be abrogated, but it was 5 years back. Do you see the possibility of PoK being reintegrated into India peacefully, we hope, in the not so distant future? And what will it cost us to do this? Would it have to be a political, diplomatic and maybe a military option as well that has to be exercised at some point?
I think, if you talk about integrating PoK in India, I think if you look at the underlying, the pretext of India's PoK policy, it is that, India claims PoK as its integral part. So somewhere that policy is kind of really looking forward to integrating India.
Absolutely. There's an act of parliament. I mean, there was a resolution in parliament 30 years back.
Not only the act of parliament, I think it's also the instrument of accession, because the instrument of accession was signed by the Maharaja of Kashmir, I mean, who was the ruler of the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir at that point of time, signed the accession. So that is the initial thing, and after that, of course, the parliamentary resolution came. So that is one thing. And so it's kind of a given to really state that India's policy on PoK, I think it looks forward to kind of integrating PoK with India at some point of time. Regarding the options which you spoke about, the political, diplomatic, and the military, of course, I think politically, yes, we have a position. Diplomatically, especially if you look at the last few years, I think we've been very proactive on our approach towards PoK. We've been very vocal at the official level, which is, I would say, somewhat a break from the past, because initially we were not kind of speaking so frequently on PoK, but now there is official commentary from the Indian government on.
And it's frequent. The commentary is frequent, as Aditya mentioned, that the top government officials have been raising it on very often, in fact.
And the best part is that this commentary from the Indian government is very articulate. It's very fine, also, and it is taken notice at the international community's level also.
Absolutely,
So talking about the current process, I just want to briefly add that the current protest, I think if you look at it, it's the cumulative impact or the outburst of decades of apathy and neglect. But what stands out in the current this current spell of protest is the fact that it is happening in AJK, and I'm not saying that this is the first time there are protests in AJK. This has been happening for quite some time, as the previous speaker also said. But we have to take note of the fact that in the so-called Azad Jammu and Kashmir, there is tighter control from the Pakistan establishment as compared to Gilgit-Baltistan. So we have to take note of the fact that these protests are happening in AJK, where there is so much of tight control, but even then they are happening and they are sustaining also. The second, I think the second thing is that, yes, the demography in AJK is quite changed. I mean, I think Pakistan has made conscious efforts to ensure that the demography is not what it was in 1947. So we have to look at these protests in that perspective, despite the tight control of the military and the establishment in AJK, and that the fact that the demography has also undergone a lot of change, these protests are happening. So this is a serious problem for Pakistan in that sense.
It's a serious problem.
And second point, I just want to add that when CPEC was coming up, in Pakistan, so there was this debate happening, what if there is so much of development happening across the line of control? So what impact will it have on J&K? How will people react to that? But look at where CPEC has gone today. I mean, it's kind of, I don't think so it has really been able to achieve those kind of high-sounding objectives that it was stated out to achieve. That has not happened. So what is happening is that people across the LOC, maybe they are looking towards India, because India is kind of charting a particular course.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask this question, Dr. Singh, to Jamil Maqsood. Mr. Maqsood, are people in PoK actually looking across the LOC and looking at India? What is the end game? Do they really want to integrate with India? Do they want to break away from Pakistan? What is the sense that you're getting from people on the ground there?
Thank you very much. It is not only the people on the ground. We are also very much part of that movement and that peaceful struggle for the local rights. We have to understand the nature of the division of the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. And the first and foremost desire of the people is to integrate themselves with the rest of the Jammu and Kashmir, which is under the administration of India. So it is their vehement and overwhelming desire. It is their wish, because when they see things differently occurring and happening in different administrations, under the Indian administration and under the colonization of Pakistan, so they feel a very clear difference So their first and foremost wish is to be the part of the erstwhile President of Jammu and Kashmir, which they have been.
Right.
It is not that they were not the part of Jammu and Kashmir earlier, and now they want to be the part of that region, but they want to revive their language, their culture, their shared history, and all other things that are to be accomplished as a nationhood, as a nation state, or as a state under the jurisdiction of India.
Absolutely. Important point there, Aditya. As Jamil Maqsood mentioned, that the desire is for integration with India's Jammu and Kashmir. Would this be a priority for the government, the Modi government, if it comes back for a third term, as it looks increasingly likely it will?
Well, certainly India is aware of the security challenges in this region. We have borne the brunt. I, as a journalist, as a Kashmiri as well, have been a victim of this. But I think the government of India is very calculative. The Prime Minister in his interviews has repeatedly mentioned that we have ignored Pakistan.
Right.
I am not willing to speak on Pakistan or engage on Pakistan. They can get their food. We will be happy. Do waqt ki roti, chai pani. That is enough. And that is a strategic, calculated, stand that India has taken post Pulwama and Balakot.
Right.
That we do not want to engage. We do not want to give the kind of prominence that we gave to Pakistan anymore.
Right.
And that has been a very good stand as well.
Yes.
The real threat, China, is something that we are
Absolutely.
focused on now.
Yes.
Secondly, I completely agree with my friend Jamil Maqsood and Priyanka when they say that this is years and decades long of anger, of despair, of this kind of frustration that is coming out on the streets.
Right.
And there are two things. One is not just the fundamental rights that they are not getting, and they are being treated as second-class citizens as compared to Pakistanis. The reality is that after 2019, they are looking at India.
Yes.
They are looking at the Indian Kashmir. They are looking at the prosperity, the tourism economy really increasing, and saying that we have the same place. We have the same Kashmir. We have the same Gilgit, Baltistan, Muzaffarabad, Neelam. Why aren't we getting tourists? And interestingly, when it comes to media, Reuters, AP, AFP is not reporting these protests.
Right.
Why aren't they reporting? Why don't they have correspondents out there?
Absolutely.
And lastly, Sandeep, I'm holding this phone.
Yes.
This is a poster that I saw yesterday. A local from Pakistan Occupied Kashmir near Kotli sent me this. These are three flags. One is a flag of Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, AJK, so-called AJK. Second is flag of India, and third is flag of Pakistan.
Right.
There is a cross on the flag of Pakistan.
Yes.
There is a tick mark on flag of India.
Right.
And AJK flag is as it is.
Yes.
And it says, the slogan in Urdu says, Kashmiriyon ki ek hi awaaz, khud mukhtari ya Hindustan.
Right.
They want to either go with India or go on their own. They do not want to stay with Pakistan. And this is the resentment, this is the anger that is there, which will only grow in the months to come.
Anger that will grow only in the months to come, and it's very clear that this is something that India will be looking at very closely, given the fact that the kind of high-level statements that are coming out about PoK in particular, Aditya, and not just, while the government of India may have switched off on Pakistan, it's got laser focus on Gilgit, Baltistan and PoK. But that's a story, that's a developing story that we'll be tracking very closely. I'd like to thank Dr. Priyanka Singh, Mr. Jamil Maqsood, and my colleague Aditya Kaul for joining us this evening to talk about what PoK will cost India. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar recently said that every political party was committed to ensuring PoK returns to India. Now, how can India get back PoK? Will it be military, diplomatic or legal action? Watch our story, Mission PoK, only on the News9 Plus app.
August 1947. India got its freedom and Pakistan was created. Since then till now, there is an unfinished business of partition. And that is taking back its territories of Gilgit, Baltistan and PoK being held by Pakistan. Is war an option, or can we win back our territories in the International Court of Justice?
The very law that created Pakistan itself makes J&K part of India. If Pakistan disowns this law, there is no Pakistan.
The National Command Authority and all are all subservient to Pakistan military. So the possibility of a major loss translating itself to use a nuclear device is possible.
So you have to have a
full idea of what this entails, militarily, economically, politically, internationally. Then you can think about acting or planning.
Reuniting Gilgit-Baltistan and PoK.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.